Hey, what's up, guys? This is Cody the Coin Raptor coming at you with another Bitcoin monthly report. Now, again, as a reminder, this is from ARK Invest. They put these reports out every single month, and I like to cover them as best as I can, and also kind of give my whole opinion on it and see exactly what ARK is seeing when they're looking at the Bitcoin charts. So this one's titled "Another Consolidation Near All-Time Highs." We're going to go ahead and get right into it. So usually we start off here with the summary. And what they're saying here is the month over month, Bitcoin's price increased 11% to 67,472. And that's after it visited its short term holder cost basis. And we'll see that in a chart coming up. But what it's showing you right here is that the short-term holder cost basis is going to be strong support for Bitcoin going forward. That's basically what ARK is saying right here. They also talk quite a bit about Ethereum here as well, and that's primarily because the SEC basically did a approval of a rule change that would clear the way for adoption and the acceptance of a Ether spot ETF. So Ethereum, as a result, has gone up, especially compared to Bitcoin. And they also say that the long-term holder supply, which is a metric that I follow very closely, has actually returned to positive flows. So in other words, these long-term holders are buying instead of selling Bitcoin towards the end of the month. So we're going to go ahead and cover that as well. Next, we're going to go right into the Bitcoin long-term holder supply here and the metrics. Most of the metrics are bullish except for active owners and the transaction volume. Those two are bearish at the moment. Then we go down here to our next set of metrics, and the big one here is perpetual futures basis. This got a double downgrade to bearish. Okay, so the futures basis, according to them, is looking bearish. So for those traders have become a little bit more bearish on Bitcoin during the month of May. All right, so next they talk about the Bitcoin short-term holder cost basis. Now, again, this was set at about $62,570 or so. This is going to be strong support for Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin does come back down to that to this level, we can expect that 62K is going to be a strong support level. We saw here back in the early part of the year, it actually kind of dipped below that level and then shot back up again. But as you can see here, it's actually been pretty effective support, at least since January of 2023. This red line here, the short-term holder cost basis. Basically, if you had bought Bitcoin at any time underneath this red line here, you probably would be in profit currently. So I think that this is an absolutely fantastic support level for Bitcoin. And again, that's at about 62,570. All right. And then they also say that the 200-day moving average is sitting at about 54,140. So that would also be a strong layer of support below that. So if it does go below 62,000, then 54,000, that support level would come into play. Next, they talk about Ethereum and Bitcoin pairs. So basically comparing the Ethereum and Bitcoin prices together. Now, Ethereum had a fantastic May. And in fact, they said Ethereum had the best May or the best month since October of 2022 relative to Bitcoin. And again, the reason for that is because the SEC is clearing the way to approve an Ethereum spot ETF. And that should be most likely sometime in the summertime. Next, they talk about the long-term holder supply. Now, again, they have a graph here, the long-term holder supply and the price. Now, you can notice here in green, there are spikes of these long-term holders basically buying Bitcoin, and there are the negative values are them actually selling Bitcoin. So you can see here that during the most of 2024, they've actually had a pretty significant drawdown of these long-term holders. And this is something I've talked about quite a bit on my channel, is looking at the long-term holder Bitcoin behavior, because usually these long-term holders, they like to sell close to the top as Bitcoin goes near all-time highs and makes new all-time highs. That's normally when they're going to be selling, and the largest amount of selling is normally near the local top of the bull market. Now, we've seen so far a large number of long-term holders sell, but they are saying here that towards the end of May, they actually had some inflows as well. So now you're starting to see these long-term holders actually buy Bitcoin and not sell, or at least not move them to exchanges. Next, they talk about the exchange withdrawal rate. And so basically, what they're saying here is they have the realized price for a bunch of years here from 2017 all the way up to 2023. You have the realized price, which is basically the market cost basis for Bitcoin. And you can see that these usually act as layers of support for Bitcoin. And right now, we're seeing about a realized price of just under 40K or so for Bitcoin currently. Now, what they're saying here is that anybody who had bought Bitcoin between 2017 and 2023 likely would have made money on Bitcoin. So, in their view, this is very bullish. And this would probably continue to be bullish as long as Bitcoin continues to climb and make new all-time highs. Thus, people who bought in, say, 2024 will mostly be in profit as long as Bitcoin continues to go up. So that's what they're saying right here. Next, they talk about the profit-loss ratio, okay? And the reason why I talk about the profit-loss ratio is it's a good way of determining where the bull market top is. And so they say normally in a prior bull market top, it's at about, they say, 6.4-ish. So you can see these nice little bull market tops here. When it comes past that 6 level, that's normally when you'd wind up seeing a bull market top. So far, we're sitting at about 4.6. So I think this is actually bullish. However, ARK says it is neutral in their view. So this is something that I would also be paying attention to if you're looking for when the actual bull market all-time high is going to be, or when it's going to actually top out in the next bull cycle. Next, they talk about macro pressures. So moving into the economy here, they say that job openings are lower than expected, and the previous month was revised downwards. The ratio of job openings to unemployed people has dropped to pre-COVID levels. So they're saying here that basically the job market is weakening currently, and the unemployment rate is rising, okay? Now, the other side of that coin is that if the unemployment rate is rising, then it's likely that the Fed will wind up lowering interest rates, and that can actually be very good for Bitcoin. So if the Fed does lower rates, or when they lower rates, and I think that they are going to be lowering rates personally, but when they do that, it's going to actually wind up being good for Bitcoin. Next, they talk about the restaurant same-store sales. So the restaurant same-store sales have been declining for a lot of these quick service restaurants. They're using this as a gauge to figure out what the strength of the consumer is, and they're saying that these rates are declining, and so the consumer is getting weaker. And the consumer cannot afford to go and eat at many of these restaurants. And so they're actually starting to see negative change, and people are moving away from buying these foods at these restaurants and instead eating at home or going and cooking their own food. So what we're seeing here right now is neutral in ARK's view, but it is showing some kind of weakness in the consumer. They also talk about the pending home sales. Pending home sales have dropped to the lowest price, the lowest level since COVID, okay, and below the global financial crisis. So they're saying here that home sales right now are being extremely depressed. It's actually below where it was back in 2008. And it was below, close to where it was in COVID time. So again, weakening of the economy, weakening of the consumer, that's what they're trying to show here. All right, and then they go to the appendix. So we're going to go ahead and go back to the summary, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about what ARK is talking about in this report. So ARK largely saying Bitcoin is consolidating for now. Now, when it comes to Bitcoin, Bitcoin usually tends to consolidate before the next move higher, so this really isn't a huge surprise. But there's trying to say here that there is some significant gains ahead for Ethereum as those Ethereum spot ETFs actually get approved, and Bitcoin is going to still wind up being strong. However, the macro backdrop is still very weak. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think about this report. If you think that this is actually helpful to go through, or if there's something you want me to take a look at, leave a comment below, and I will catch you guys in the next video.